Hi folks, we're looking at the rear wheel well on a 1996 Dodge Intrepid, and I am doing a gas tank strap today. And I didn't intend to video this repair from the start, but you know, it's a fairly straightforward repair and very intuitive, but I ran into a problem and I thought, well, it was worth documenting it for people to see. I think if someone runs into the same problem I do, this may help them out quite a bit. But so I am starting midway through this repair, and so what I will do is explain kind of what I did so far. So the car is jacked up, both rear wheels are removed. I have the car safely blocked off the rear cross member, and on the far side under the jacking point I also have a jack holding up the gas tank with a block underneath it. I made a block that bolts to the saddle of the jack. Okay, this is a plastic gas tank, and I did get a part from my local napper that is supposed to fit, and what I found out is that it doesn't really fit it very well. So basically you just remove these two bolts here and here, and this piece comes down. There's a plate here. This plate serves two purposes, which complicates it a little bit. It supports the sway bar bushing and also supports the gas tank strap on this one bolt hole here. Pretty simple, really. But what I found is that the gas tank strap, you see it's not attached on the other side, is too short. And so I'll get into that in a little bit, and we'll take it from here. So okay, I'm on the other side of the car right now. I have the new strap in there. I blocked it up just so I have a free hand, okay, so I can hold the camera. And there's the original bolt there. It's an M10 by 25. 25 is about an inch. And you can see it's not even long enough to pull it up. So that's a problem. I got a rough idea of how much I'm shy by here. And I measured, it's between 1.5 inches and 1.25 inches, maybe 1 3/8 inches. So I got to move this bend, the original bend in the part, up about 1 3/8 inches, so that I can then get this part to work. So what my strategy will be is to move this bend 1 3/8 inches this way, and then see if possibly that hole may line up, or I may have to drill a new hole or slot that a little bit to make it work. Okay, I get the part on the bench here, and I am convinced it is not made correctly, because basically the dimension from this surface to here should be the same as from this surface to here. And I did measure it, and there's about 1 3/8 inches difference, which is pretty much what I measured when it was just on the car. Okay, and this part here, it's a Spectra Premium ST159. I did a little bit of research, and as best I can tell, they're the only folks making this. I did find some parts under a different brand, but the same part number, the same manufacturer's part number, ST159. So my guess is there's only one manufacturer for this part. And I did try to get another one from my local napper, and basically the second one had the same dimensions. There was a discrepancy from this height to that height. It looked the same, so my guess is either they're spec'd wrong, or there's just a manufacturing defect and they have a bad lot out there. I mean, I don't know what the extent of the problem is, but the reason I decided to do this video is that my guess is other people are going to run into this problem too, and if what I do can help other folks out, you know, that's what it's all about. So you know, again, this part is not available from the dealer anymore. It's for the LH series Chryslers, which are not supported with a lot of spare parts anymore. And again, these are cars from like 93 to 97. So this is pretty much your only game in town, unless you can find one in the salvage yard. You're better off reworking this. Doesn't look like it's going to be too hard, but you need a few tools to do that. So basically my strategy is, and you can see I've bent this a little bit already, I'm going to flatten this bend out here, and I'm going to move it up 1 3/8. Then I'm going to put it back under the car and see how the hole lines up. My guess is I'm going to have to slot this hole a little bit here, just drag this with a file or a Dremel tool, or whatever you have. If you have access to a machine shop, by all means throw it up in the Bridgeport. But do what you got to do. Okay, so I'm just basically showing you how I jerry-rigged a setup to bend this piece. A makeshift table with some blocks of wood and some clamps, and I'm just using this slip joint pliers to pull up. If you have a steel vise, definitely use that. I don't have that luxury, so I'm just going to do it this way. Then once I get it close to being straight, I'll hammer it flat and then rebend it. Okay, so I tried to straighten that out as best I could, and then I beat this surface with a ball peen hammer with a block of wood on the other side, and that's about as straight as I'm going to get it. There's a little bit of a wrinkle there, I'm not too worried about it, and then I can straighten this out by hand. So now my next step is I'm going to measure up 1 3/8 from this wrinkle here up this way, and then try to put a 90-degree bend in it. Okay, and I bent my right angle up here. It actually came out a little bit less than I wanted. I wanted 1 3/8, and it came out to be about 1 1/4. But I would rather err on the short side than the long side, thinking this will stretch a little bit. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be okay, but we're going to try it out and see. And I measured it like this. I got about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch discrepancy between here and here and here and here. I think it was actually closer to 1/8 of an inch. So that's pretty darn close. And again, it was on the short side, not the long side, so I'm erring on the short side, like I said. So we're going to try to put it in. We're not going to try, we are going to put it in, and then we're going to see how the fit looks. And my guess is now, looking at this, that hole will probably work, or I may have to just drag it slightly towards the inside with a file, but let's see. Okay, I'm on the driver's side of the car, and I want to install this bracket, but I want to point something out first before I go anywhere. I removed these 2 bolts on the exhaust hanger. It's a bolt that goes in there and one underneath going straight up, and that was just to give me a little bit of play with the exhaust pipe, because what we want to do is we want to fish this part through here, and that gave me a little bit of play, and it was helpful. I looked at also removing the next hanger down, and the bolts were just too rusty, and I didn't even want to waste my time on it. It could have been a disaster, so I was lucky enough. This does work. You can get it through there. If you're up on a lift, this won't even be an issue. But when you're working on jack stands, this is something you also have to consider, is getting this piece in and out. So this is how I figured it out, and I'm doing this with one hand because the other hand's on the camera, so sorry for the camera bouncing around on you. But I put it in upside down, and then I feed it down towards the front of the car as best I can. I want to clear everything here. Okay. Again, this is tough with one hand, but you can do it. Alright, I want to try to get it parallel with the exhaust pipe. Parallel going this way as best you can, and then you want to flip it around. Okay, there, like that. And then, as you can see, you can just swing it. Okay? And I'm just going to put one bolt in on this side for now, just to hold this up and test the other side. Okay? Back in a moment. Okay, here I am on the passenger side, and it looks really good. I just put a bolt in there and pulled it up. Pulled up nicely. Tight, but not too tight. And I think we lucked out, and it went in pretty good. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove these, and I'm going to put the plate back in. This plate here. It goes in this orientation with new bolts, washers, and I'm going to use a little bit of Loctite blue on the threads. There was a blue thread locker on there to start with, and then torque them down. I believe the torque spec is 44 foot-pounds, and we're good to go. And just for your reference, these bolts are M10s with a 1.5 pitch by 25 millimeters. You could go a little bit longer if you had to. If that's what you had, you could probably go with 30 on this side. You could go a lot longer on the one here. If you only had those lying around, you went around to the hardware store. But yeah, I would recommend putting in new bolts. The other ones are pretty rusty and they came out hard. And if you're doing this, your car is like 15 years old or maybe older, so it's a good idea. So we'll button it up, and then I'll be back in a moment. Thanks. Okay, so now I have everything buttoned up. I get these bolts on both sides torqued to the 44 foot-pounds, and everything looks really good. I'm happy with the outcome here, and I hope you found this helpful, and some of the techniques and thought processes I went through here, things you could use on any car. Any car we ran into a similar issue, not necessarily just the LH series, body series Chryslers. So I hope this was helpful to you, and feel free to weigh in with any comments. And one other thing before I sign off, I just want to point out on these particular vehicles, there is an access plate through the trunk to the fuel pump, and I just took that off just to inspect in there. Just 4 nuts, and it's good to know about this. And in a situation like this, it's good just to check that out. If your gas tank strap broke and you may have driven a little bit on it accidentally, or maybe intentionally, I don't know. And either way, it's good just to check that out, make sure none of the hoses are kinked or damaged. Anyway, it's just good to know. Alrighty, again, feel free to weigh in, and thanks for watching.